Hey guys, welcome back. Today was a fun one. We got to play with some spicy nachos, yo. That's right, we made another commercial. No, I didn't use the iPhone this time. We used the SONY ZV, the vlogging camera. We wanted to see what else is it capable of other than just vlogging. And I think it did pretty good. Now, I could have used the cell phone like last time to create this commercial, but again, we wanted to try the Sony. I got a lot of behind the scenes. I got some tips and tricks and some pretty cool effects. Let's get into it and have some fun. Here's the little setup for that shot. Now, it seemed like a simple shot, but it's actually fairly involved because none of it was done in post in the video editor. I didn't have to do or hide anything because of the way I set this up. So here's the overall setup. I've got the two jars, the chips, the jars underneath, and I'll come in close to show you all this in a second. I just want to show you that I'm using fishing line to do all the pulling. So the fishing line comes from the jar. This one goes across the table that way around that stand and attaches to the tripod. And I've just simply used a clamp on the tripod to attach that fishing line to help me adjust the tension. Now this one, the fishing line comes this way along and around this stand here and attaches to another clamp on the tripod. Now, if you're wondering how I'm hiding the fishing line on the table, well, it's kind of like this. This is a fake piece here, but these are just planks of wood. So there's a small little gap in between, which allows me to take the fishing line up underneath, then come up through the table and attach to the bottle. So when I pull, the fishing line is actually sliding through the groove just under the table. I've got the front of the board lifted up just a bit because I have three pieces of strapping across to hold it together and it would stop the fishing line. So I just put a couple of clamps underneath just to get it up off the table so the fishing line runs free and clear. But to show you how this worked, I'm going to show you with the tripod. So normally for this one, the Sony camera would be on here, but that's actually what's recording this video right now. Now, if I take the tripod and push it forward, watch what happens to the jars. They magically slide forward. How cool is that? Now, if you notice one jar moved before the other jar, one hit the bag before the other one, that is the tricky part. You've got to get the tension right and the distance right, adjusting the stand at the back on each so that each one moved at the same time and they both hit the bag at the same time. That is the tricky part. That's where these little clamps came in handy. So let me bring you in a little closer so you can have a little better look at this. But this is the overall setup, and you can see my two lightings here. I've got the LED panels back onto the side, and if you remember from the video I did on shiny products and how to shoot them, that you don't front light because of the glare, that's why my lighting is set the way it is. So I'll put a link to that video down below so you can check it out on how to minimize a lot of bright highlights on the front of your products. So let's get in a little closer and I can show you all the little details of this so you'll be able to do it yourself. All right, here's a little closer look at the clamps that I used, and you can see it's just a normal clamp and it had a hole in the back convenient enough that the fishing line went through, and then I simply attached it to the tripod like that. You can see how the line is loose. I just simply rotated this around until the line was taut. That's it. So one for each of the jars or objects that I wanted to move, and they just simply hold on to the tripod. That's that little piece set up. Let's have a closer look at the table with the jars. All right, so you can see here on the jar, I just basically have it taped on the bottom with a piece of duct tape and the fishing line held on there. I just kind of wrapped it around a couple of times, and that's what, and you can see how the fishing line just falls in that little crack. Now, don't pay attention to the high-tech piece of gear here. It's just another photo prop. It's a lantern that allowed me to stand the bag up and try and get the wrinkles out of the bag as much as possible, but the lantern held it up. So that's basically the closer up look. You can basically see how the fishing line runs through that crack. That's why you don't see it, and that's why I don't need to edit it out in video in post, because I hid it in camera. One last thing I will show you with the setup. Do you notice the fabric underneath the tripod? That is allowing the tripod to slide smoothly. I've done a video in the past about how to do B-roll moves with a tripod, and this was one of the tips that I did. I put this other background down because it doesn't have any lines on it, because the plank flooring underneath was catching the tripod and creating it to jitter. This way I have a smooth floor, and this type of fabric just makes the tripod glide smoothly without it going blah. So another little tip for you. Now we go on to some of the more easier, more mundane standard type shots, and that's opening jars and opening up the bag, pouring a bit into the bowl I've got sitting here. Those are all fairly standard. I'm not going to show you how to do those because I think you can figure that one out, and you'll see how I did it in the video at the end. Now, with the bag though, I wanted a different perspective. When I had done a previous commercial like this, and I did popcorn going into a bucket, I put my cell phone in the bowl and had the popcorn pour on it. Very cool, I liked it, but I wanted to do something different this time. So why don't we do it from the chips perspective, coming from the bag, through the bag, and into the bowl. Okay, gave it some thought, and we came up with this little rig here. So on a boom arm, I know it looks kind of hideous, but in here I have a Tostitos bag, and what I did is I had to use this plastic bag on the outside to help cradle the Tostitos bag, because it was only me, and I had my daughter give me a hand with it, because honestly I just couldn't do it all myself effectively. I may have, after maybe 100 takes, got it right, but with the two of us we got it done in just a handful. So what we did is, on the back side here, is open the bag right up, so it's just a hollow tube all the way through. I took my camera, put it onto a monopod, put a bunch of chips in the bag, put my camera in the back, and then just push the camera through the bag with the chips as the chips were coming out. So I had a bunch of chips in here. I had my camera on a monopod sitting at the back. My daughter had a handful of chips that as I started to push, she threw more chips in, and I pushed with the whole thing, and we tipped the back up more. That's why I've got this extra clamp here, because if this was too steep, everything just kept falling out. So I put a layer of chips in there, and then, like I say, I just simply push the camera through, and you get a very cool effect like this. I really love how that kind of look came. It's from the point of view of a chip going through the bag and to the bowl. I really like that one. I came up with another move that I thought would be really interesting and would really add some impact and a different perspective again. And it would be different than what I did with the popcorn one. So let's again look at it from the chip's point of view. And have you ever seen anyone hot glue a chip onto a old-fashioned butter knife? Check it out. So as you can see, I'm hot gluing the chip onto the butter knife for my next shot. The end result ends up being this. Now the tip's broken because I've already used it, and actually I had to do a couple of dips at it, but I'll bring this in just so you can see. This is my chip here, and yeah, it worked really well though. Check out the clip. I really like how that goes in, and I got the focus to stay on the front, and it got the focus on the salsa. So that just simply going in, and I just held this underneath the camera as I went in, did the dip, and came up. So I was really pleased with that effect as well. What do you think? Well, that's it from the Tostitos set. That's kind of all your little tie-ins and how-tos of how I did all this. So let's get back into the main part of the studio and do a final wrap-up on all of this, and then you'll be able to check out the little commercial that we made together. There you have it, all the little bits and pieces that I did to create this little commercial. And I'm dying to show you this commercial. But I have to say, doing these commercials is a lot of fun. It's challenging trying to come up with different ways of doing things, looking at how other people have done things. How can you modify? How can you change it? How can you make it better? How creative can you get in making a little commercial at home with, I use the SONY ZV-1. Minimal equipment to do some of this stuff. It's all about the creativity and ingenuity of being able to do this. So without further ado and me continuing to babble, let's have a look at the video that we made. I was really pleased with how that came out. Man, I love making these commercials. And as I say, the Sony ZV-1, a vlogging camera, is more than just a vlogging camera. Now, as I said, I could have made that commercial with a cell phone as well. And I'm having fun with these commercials. I can see me doing some more of this and trying to come up with some new creative ideas. And we may go back to the cell phone and see what we can do with it again and try and create some mind-blowing little commercials in our home studio. All right, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you're aware when I post new videos like this. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. So, until the next time.